Hey friend, welcome to Self-Transformed, a podcast dedicated to transforming your health in less time and guilt-free through the power of habit hacking. I'm your host, Emily Nichols, behavior change specialist, fitness and Whole30 coach, and Taco Tuesday enthusiast. Hey, I know the struggle is real when it comes to taking care of you. I too am a working mom who felt physically and emotionally drained, but lacked the time and confidence to actually make myself a priority. Creating habit strategies around my health was the key to help me finally create a consistent, healthy lifestyle that doesn't feel hard. I'm now on a mission to equip you with those same sustainable habit hacks to help transform your life from the inside out, guilt-free. Together, we will simplify your health into daily habits that don't feel like another thing on your long to-do list, but rather consistent actions that add up to a massive transformation that will stick through all seasons of your life. So if you're ready to habit hack your health and create your own self-transformation, then let's do this. You're listening to episode 170 of Self-Transformed. Hey friend, welcome back to the show. Oh my goodness, where has the month of September gone? We are flying by this month, getting ready to go into that full fall season, all things pumpkin spice. Bleh, you can keep your pumpkin spice far away from my margarita. But as the seasons change, one thing doesn't change is that it's important to take care of yourself. But I know it's often hard because we don't have a lot of time. You know, schedules change as well as when seasons change. But also you might feel that little tinge of guilt when maybe we feel like we're taking time away from our family to really take care of ourselves. I have a solution for you, my friend. Join me and Self-Transform You. It is my signature 4-week program where you will learn basic habit strategy. I give you my Habits That Stick starter kit with your enrollment in STU because I strongly believe in learning the benefits of my basic 3-step habit method. You learn that, and then week by week, you learn about how to use habit strategy around your mindset, such as losing the guilt. Week 2, we talk about food freedom and habit strategy. We talk about movement in week 3 and habit strategy. And then the last week, what to do when you lose motivation or you go into a new season of life, like a lot of us are now. As the seasons change, sometimes our schedules change. So join me. You can get the program at any time. A lot of folks ask me, a lot of girls are like, how long will it take me? It should take you 4 weeks, but each week it should only take you maybe 30, 45 minutes each week to be able to go through it and do the homework, because I will assign you some action items. I think it's really important to learn some data about yourself and then take action based off of that and track it to see how it goes. Now you can sign up for STU Next Level. You can get that at any time as well. And join me where I will take you through STU. You'll do some one-on-one accountability coaching with me. You can learn more at selftransformu.com. Sign up ASAP and join me before you get into that busy holiday season and you have a plan to still be able to take care of yourself and create a sustainable health plan that will take you through all seasons of your life, my friend. You are definitely worth it to take the time to take care of yourself, and I will help you get there. If you're not sure if STU is for you quite yet, though, feel free to hop on a free habit hacking call with me. I've opened up my calendar. I only have like 2 spots left, though, in October, so go book those ASAP. We hop on a call for 15 minutes to talk about, maybe a habit that's happening in your life that you want to get rid of, or a habit you want to start implementing in regards to a healthy habit, of course. And we'll just we'll jam on habit hacking for 15 minutes on what that particular habit is that you need some help with. And sometimes just talking it out, you're able to come up with a strategy, which I love doing with these ladies. I'll probably start recording them soon so you guys can hear them as well if the girls I talk to are comfortable doing that. Of course, if they're not, we won't then there you go. But you can go to bit.ly/free call with Emily. It's linked in the show notes too. I can't wait to get on a call and jam with you and or see you and Self-Transform You. So funny, I've been wanting to have someone on the show to talk about sleep, and today's guest just dropped in my inbox. I was like, well, perfect. This was something I've been wanting to talk about. And I wanted to talk about sleep, in particular sleep deprivation, because let's face it, we're all tired. I don't know about you. I feel like a lot of times I am so tired, or sometimes halfway through the day, I'm already thinking about, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go home and go to bed. A lot of you know, if you don't know, go back and listen to some of my earlier episodes. My own transformation journey began in 2015 with my husband at my side because he went through a couple of years of sleep deprivation, insomnia, to tell you the truth, and he suffered physically and mentally because of it, and our whole family did, really. So that's when we decided to make a change and start incorporating more healthy habits in our life, and it has just snowballed from there. Now I help other women do the same thing. But in thinking about the last year as well, you know, I'm 41 now. I just turned 40 the year before. And I'm really thinking about reversing the clock on aging and how I can do that. And taking on coaching at Orange Theory the past year and a half is something I'm so passionate about, and I love it. But I coach super early, a couple days a week and a Saturday morning, because that works out best for my family. I told them when I went back to coaching people in person, I wouldn't go in the evenings at all, because that is family time for us. And we are just so busy running the boys everywhere. So y'all, I get up at 3:50 a.m. on Wednesdays and Thursdays to go coach my first class of the day that starts at 5 a.m. And, you know, over the past year, I wasn't seeing as much results and consistency as I wanted to with the way I was eating and with the way I was moving my body. And I think that a lot of that had to come down to the amount of sleep I was getting. I wasn't having healthy sleep habits. I've reversed that since then, and that's definitely helped. But I know from a lot of folks that I talk to, everyone is just so tired, and sleep is something that is so underrated and can really turn back the clock on aging and give you the results you want with your everyday lifestyle. But it's something we're forgetting. I feel like a lot of times we wear like not sleeping or not functioning on little to no sleep as like a badge of honor. But trust me, my friend, I'm speaking from experience and from a lot of the women I coach and from a lot of my best friends too. Your poor sleep habits will catch up to you. They will. They will catch up to you and lead you to being frustrated by not seeing the results, which in turn can turn into emotional eating. You stop working out. It's just a vicious cycle in itself. So today I have brought on Larisa Petrini. She is an age reversal expert and epigenetics specialist known for turning back the clock 10 years. So she has helped hundreds of high achieving women, help them get back in shape, overcome chronic fatigue, solve dragging, sagging skin, and deal with moods and hormonal imbalances. So she's currently working with celebrities and physicians from all over the world. She's shared her knowledge in Harper's Bazaar, Elle, Forbes, Shape magazine, and she's really going to talk to us today about the importance of sleep and the impact of sleep deprivation and how that can accelerate the clock on aging. And we don't want that. We don't want that. But you'll also hear, you know, sleep is just a piece of the pie, you'll see from this conversation, but it's probably like one of the biggest pieces of the pie. It's such a crucial piece that many of us are neglecting. So get cozy, get a pad of paper and a pen ready to take some notes, and make sure you stick around to the end to hear my 3 biggest takeaways, the cliff notes, if you will, of this conversation with Larisa Petrini. Friends, we are going to turn back the clock on aging and help you get some sleep. Let's get into it. All right, gang. Thank you so much for tuning back in to Self Transformed. You know, I was just talking to our guest about this before we hit record. Sometimes I have an idea for a podcast episode and someone comes into my inbox right at the right time. And that is Larisa Petrini today. Larisa, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
I can't wait to get in this discussion. Larisa is an age reversal expert. We're going to talk a lot about sleep today and how to reverse that clock on aging. But before we do, I always ask my guests this first question, and that is, what comes to mind when you hear the phrase self-transformed?
I love this question. And when I hear self-transformed, I actually get emotional about it because my story is one of a kind. I like to say probably for some of your listeners, it's familiar or they heard something similar. But for me, personally, is definitely something incredible. And I would say someone who is self-transformed is also someone who became aware and mindful in regards to the fact that we have all the power within us. It's with us. We can literally do whatever we want, and sky is the limit, or nothing is impossible. Sometimes I like to use this specific phrase or sentence. And sometimes we outsource this power. Sometimes we feel or think that this power might be somewhere else. And I'm not trying to say a mentor or a coach or an expert is not important, but if we don't have, as I like to say, ears to hear, or we are not ready to receive that specific message, we will not transform. We will not simply not see the shifts and see the transformation. So, and it happened to me a few years ago. I hired a few mentors. I was not ready for the transformation. And the transformation came after and later. And in some cases, I rehired the mentors just because I felt I was ready for their message and their way of changing a certain process in my business, or even some mindset shifts. So I would say it's all about acknowledging the power within us. That's from my, this would be my definition of someone who's self-transformed.
Yeah. And I love asking this question because it's always a different response, but I love it. It's
Sure.
being so aware and being open to change or open to transformation or getting that help when you need to, but you have to be open to it and be willing to change because change is hard or scary sometimes. And being open to it, that's when the beauty happens. And the more you do it, the more you become comfortable doing it and craving that movement and momentum forward, right?
Yeah, and there is also a specific metrics when it comes to change, right? And the first step is almost always resistance. And this has to do a lot with what you just said. And then if we manage to overcome resistance, we get to a place where we become excited or curious about what's coming up. And then obviously we get used to the friction and to the discomfort, because there is discomfort in change. And this is definitely what happened in my case, and I see lots of my clients going through the same process.
Sure. Well, let's get into your story, Larisa. I want to know a little bit more about your own transformation story, where you've been and what has really led you to who you are and what you do today.
I will start with 2009, 2010, because it was a pivotal moment for me. This is when I went through two surprising, unexpected rather, events in my life. One of them was the divorce I went through when we simply decided we are going to separate, and I was left with one. My son was back then 2 years old, so it was pretty challenging, especially because I was running a very successful company at that time, and I had a very demanding job. So suddenly I was like, oh my God, I need to take care of everything. I can call myself now a single mom as well. So that was the number one event. And again, it was surprising and unexpected. The second event, and this happened a few months after, when I was misdiagnosed with thyroid cancer. So 3 months after this event, and this was it from the emotional point of view, was pretty shocking. And I literally felt like I need some time alone to assess what happened and how things actually got there and so on. So a few months later, I was misdiagnosed with this type of cancer. And then the third one was not a negative one, was a positive one. I always say that was instrumental for what came after. I took the decision to leave for 2 months. I called that a mini sabbatical, just because it was it was not a 1 year long, it was a 2 months long, and moved to Malaysia, right in the middle of jungle in Borneo. And for 2 months, I literally took plenty of time. No electricity, no access to phones, no access to civilized world, nothing like this was there. So I was almost forced to look in the mirror, metaphorical mirror, obviously, and come up with some answers. And one of the answers had very much to do with what I was doing in my career. I was running again a very successful company. I had a team of 15 people back then, and I felt like this is not what I would love to do. So the decision I took right in the middle of jungle was the fact that I'm gonna help as many women as possible avert this type of crisis. Mm. And what happened after that was again 2009, 2010. It took me a few years, 4 years, until I resigned and said goodbye to my business partner and moved into a completely different domain, even though every single person in my life, including my mom and my family, they were like, are you crazy? You have everything you want. So many people would dream to have your life. You are successful, you have this amount of income, you are even on the cover of magazines, you have an impeccable reputation, and so on. But it wasn't fulfilling for me. It wasn't something that I really wanted for myself. So I went back to school. I started to certify myself. The first school was the Institute of Integrative Nutrition from New York, and then several other certifications. Some of them are in health coaching or nutrition. And then I moved to sleep. I'm also certified sleep coach. And then the final piece in the puzzle, even though I don't think it's final, learning is one of my values. So I see myself learning for the rest of my life. But the next piece in the puzzle was epigenetics. So I am, to be honest, looking back, I think it was truly a divine intervention what happened in 2009. It was a gift. It wasn't something to, and I never looked back feeling sad or feeling like this was terrible and this was not supposed to happen or anything like that. So I truly think that was meant to happen, both for my career and my personal transformation. So yeah, this is my story in a few sentences, of course.
Yes. I know, it's always like, where do I start? Where do I start? I love this story so much. I feel like there's always pivotal moments if you really sit down to think about it, whether it might be shocking news or a big life event that happened, or like you said, positive things too, where it was like, maybe I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Now I want to take action. And it took you 4 years to get to that point where it was time to make that big shift. Which I really want the ladies listening to know. Sometimes transformation takes time, and maybe these are little seeds, divine intervention being planted, and you have to, cultivate it over time until you're able to take it to that next step. I love that so much. I love that so much. And I love that you're always learning. Same here. I'm always like, my husband's all the time, like, what type of certification are you looking into now?
Yeah.
I think it's like that in the wellness realm, because there's so many facets when you think of wellness. It's not just like work out and like eat less calories. There's so much more to that than what we're taught, especially just with traditional medicine or whatnot. But I love how you talk about being an age reversal expert. I'm turning 41 actually here in a couple of weeks. And I kind of feel like things are like changing. And I know you mentioned a little bit about epigenetics, which I'm really interested in. And I want the folks listening to know, what does that mean and how can we contribute to our own epigenetics as far as our lifestyle and our own health?
So epigenetics is coming from, first of all, from the Greek prefix epi. And epi means on top of or in addition to something. And when we say epigenetics, it's obviously in addition or on top of genetics. And what this amazing science, new science, and I'm sure we are going to hear more and more about epigenetics in the following years. What epigenetics is able to do for every single person is to help us literally control how our genes behave and function. And epigenetics, just to explain in a very simple words, sits at the intersection between genetics and then what we do every single day in terms of nutrition, every single decision in regards to what we eat, and then environment, and then whether we diet or not, because diets are so popular, right? And so often I need to almost like recover my clients from, or have some recover protocols from this diet mentality, and from them moving from this specific mentality into lifestyle. And what does it mean to actually start feeding yourself differently? Micronutrients are important, obviously, exercise, stress, sleep. So all these lifestyle factors change the methylation and the expression of our genes. And for those listeners who are not familiar with the word methylation, and this is usually the case, at least this is something that I experienced before. Methylation is a process where tiny chemical markers, they are also called methyl groups, will attach to your DNA and also largely control the way that the DNA function. And as we naturally age, and this is, you said you are going to turn 41. I'm sure you also know the fact that aging accelerates in our 40s. Things are changing. We start losing muscle mass. Our hormones are out of balance. It's not the same, obviously, for every single woman, but generally we lose some hormones. And again, it's different for every single woman. We lose muscle mass, and then even our bones are different. The strength of our bones is not the same. For some women, sleep is an issue. They start waking up for no reason around 4 a.m., or they have difficulty going to sleep. So this could be another situation. Going back a little bit to what happens with these methyl groups as we naturally age, they will either hypo, which means low, or hyper, which means high, methylate regions, specific regions across genome, which will then affect how specific genes and also specific biological process functions, such as eyesight, for example, hearing, memory, also inflammation. And we talk here about chronic inflammation or so-called silent inflammation. And this is usually the field or the stage, if I can call it like that, for most of the lifestyle diseases. And we already, I'm sure, know by now the fact that 90% of the diseases are they are also called lifestyle diseases. They are not inherited. So genes are important and DNA is important, but what's more important than that is what we do every day. We literally have like metaphorically switch or remote control. I think it's a better way to say it. We have a remote control in our hands, of course, again, metaphorically speaking, and we can control certain areas of our life. And if we know, for example, the fact that we are predisposed to type 2 diabetes, then what we usually do with every single client we work with, we build a very focused strategic plan on what does it mean to actually do prevention in regards to type 2 diabetes. What are the sensitive spots and how that specific person can navigate, and which buttons she or he should turn on or off when it comes to diet, when it comes to sleep, when it comes to movement, and so on, because there are risk factors that are very much linked with type 2 diabetes, for example, and whether or not those factors are actually taken care of or not is an important part of the lifestyle, or the way that person takes care of her lifestyle or his lifestyle.
Yeah. So in a way, you can kind of say, Larisa, you can either, accelerate the clock, with your epigenetics,
or
like
reverse it.
aging,
Yeah.
or reverse it, just
Yeah.
depending
Yeah.
on your lifestyle and the way you're treating yourself from the inside out. For a woman listening today, what would be like the top 3 areas to focus on so we're not speeding up, we're reversing the clock?
Reversing the
Everyone's
clock.
getting out
Yeah.
their pen and paper right now, like, okay,
Yeah. I would say the number one thing, and to be honest with you, I will not go so much into specific genes or specific, just because this is so different for every single person.
Very
And
personalized.
I don't want, exactly. But there are things we can do no matter or irrespective of using or not a genetic report. And these things are obviously, and I'm sure everyone would expect this, right? Diet, what's on the plate. Mm-hmm. And what's on the plate, of course, again, it's different or slightly different for everyone. But there are certain foods that could or can trigger inflammation inside our body. And then there are foods that are great to fight inflammation. Just an example, right? And I speak pretty often about what I like to call the whites. So the more we stay away from these whites, and what are the whites about? The whites are about sugar, added sugar, refined sugar, mm-hmm. and then dairy products. And this is sometimes people are like, oh, dairy, I like cheese so much, or I like yogurt so much, and so on. And of course, the conversation is not that simple, right? We need to see. Yeah. And when it comes to dairy, sometimes a person can be sensitive to lactose, which is the sugar in dairy. Someone else could be sensitive to the proteins in dairy. Mm-hmm. And some other people, just because their hormones are out of balance, they should avoid dairy because there are hormones or plenty of hormones, depending, of course. Again, this is a broader conversation, whether or not this product is organic and clean and so on. So from my perspective, keeping the dairy products in 20% of the time, applying Pareto, the Pareto Principle, in which in 80% of our time, we stay away from these whites. And in 20% of the time, we can have some cheese once, twice a week, 3 times a week, but not every day for every single meal. This would be definitely a winning game. So sugar, dairy products, salt, and then white flour. These are the 4 whites. Again, we can keep them in the 20% of the time. If we manage to stay away from this in 80% of the time, just by removing sugar, we also remove processed foods, right? And processed food is known to actually be there and contribute to this chronic or silent inflammation. So diet and paying attention to what's on the plate, and generally focusing on whole foods, what's closer to Mother Nature and not closer to the factory, if you want. Yeah. This would be one of the things. The second thing is, instead of managing our time, I would advise everyone to actually focus on managing their energy. Especially now, it's so easy to be distracted by so many things. So many, and I'm not only talking about social media or binging on Netflix or having, I don't know, mindless conversation or useless conversations, or we can be distracted by so many things, sometimes even our own thoughts. And this is one of the things we do inside our Glorious 40 Mastermind program. We start with the mindset piece, because mindset is everything. I can hand over the best strategy for anyone. If the mindset is not in the right place, they will not implement the strategy. So managing our energy, mental energy, physical energy, emotional energy, sometimes I like to call them batteries, is very, very important. Because there is no way we can focus on ourselves and prioritize self-care if we don't properly manage our energy. And by managing our energy, we also manage our time and ourselves. Because and this is a very interesting shift for my clients. They learned, whether this happened inside the corporation they work for, or they learned this in the school. They learned so much about time management and how to manage their time and how to organize their to-dos and how to properly plan and so on. And it's not so much about that. Time is time. Time is something that we create, first of all. What's even more important is how we manage ourselves and how we manage our energy. So this would be the second advice. And then the second thing we can look into when it comes to aging. And the third one is definitely movement. Mm-hmm. And movement is, again, there are so many limiting beliefs around movement. Some of them have to do with the fact that you need to kill yourself in the gym in order to be healthy, or you need to hire a personal trainer if you want to be healthy and so on. And that's fine. That's perfect. If you can do that, and if this is something that you can afford time-wise and also financially, it's great. Before that, there are so many things we can do for ourselves. Just, I don't know, taking a walk outside and exposing ourselves to natural light. That in itself is so beneficial for our sleep, for example, and is just one example. We have mental clarity. We have the ability to have perspective about the day, or put some order in our thoughts and take decisions. There are so many benefits, from the mental perspective, but also from the emotional perspective and so on. And we almost forgot to take these steps or to prioritize these steps, ideally in the nature. But even if it's just outside in fresh air, natural light, that would be a huge win. And I would give one as a bonus, if you allow me.
Absolutely.
And this has to do with sleep. I just cannot skip this one because it's so important. And again, things changed. I feel like in the last years, we speak about sleep more and more. But I would say, like probably 10 years ago, so many women were so proud of themselves because they managed to actually be productive with only 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Right.
And it's not even the case. It's almost like we are fooling ourselves, and things can work for a while. But when we hit 40 and beyond, we move and want to stay productive and manage or run our businesses or run a team or manage a business. Things are not the same. And this is one of the ahas my clients have. They are like, I want my body back, and I want my energy back, and I want my focus back, and what's going on here, and so on. And then we explain what happens and how our body is changing and why the focus is not there the same way it was a few years ago. So food, and then energy management and mindset a little bit, because it's also mental energy, and then moving our body and sleep. I would say these 4 are definitely priorities, or should be priorities.
Should be. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like they should be. I love that so much. And I really want to dig deeper into sleep. I could dig into each of those. And just a little note, anytime before I do a podcast recording, I always go outside, even if it's winter, and I walk outside. That way I have mental clarity. I have some natural vitamin D anytime before I get on a call with a client. Even if it's just 5 minutes or less, I will just go walk outside, or I'll just check the mail just to be like, okay, get myself grounded. And I could go on and on about each of those areas. It's true.
You can sense, I sense that, or I had that feeling right in the beginning when we met. Your energy you have a calm, grounded energy, and it's something that it's so beneficial, not only for ourselves, but also for for anyone else
Yes.
who's getting in contact with us, right? Whether sometimes they're employees or colleagues or kids, and it's truly a gift for them. And having to deal with an overwhelmed, overworked, overstressed woman is not easy.
No.
Right, when we are in that state, we snap at other people, and then we feel sorry for our behavior. Sometimes we say things that we don't want to say, or we simply manage to send out that stressful vibe.
Yeah.
And that in itself is huge, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like you said, I love how you said not managing your time. I mean, we could talk about time management all day, but your energy, like with me coaching people, and I'm sure you feel the same way too, Larisa, you're giving a lot of your energy to folks. But being a wellness professional, I know how to charge my battery back up and to get my energy back up. And a lot of that has to do with rest or sleep, which a lot of the women listening, they're busy working women. They are in that burnout zone and they're not sleeping because they're not making these other areas we just mentioned a priority. And I can just speak from personal experience and also watching my husband through his sleep struggles. Well, I guess 7 years ago now. I feel like he was aging so fast over a year and a half time of not sleeping, like the weight gain and the mental load and no mental clarity of not sleeping. And I want to maybe discuss a little bit here what the actual impact is on you physically and mentally when you aren't getting quality sleep. Because I know there's a lot of my friends and clients listening who just aren't sleeping well. And I want them to realize the impact that has on them, not just, like, oh, I'm aging a lot quicker, but the other impact it can have on them as well.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's interesting. It's interesting because we don't have this level of awareness in regards to sleep, even though we spend 30% of our life sleeping, right? And we are so sometimes preoccupied. I don't want to say obsessed because it's probably a tough word, but so focused on food and what we eat, and so little focused on what's going on while we sleep. And again, this is 30% of our life. And it looks like, and this is coming from statistics, 30% of the world's population is sleep depleted. That's a huge percentage from my perspective. So sleep, yes, it is. So sleep is probably the most underestimated health factor. Even though sleep has a huge influence on our physical, mental, and emotional health. And you saw this when your husband had those issues, right, for 1 year and a half. So when we are sleep deprived and obviously tired, once we get sleep deprived, we are also tired, we feel tired, we look tired, we are not the best version of ourselves, mentally, emotionally, physically. Every single type of, if I can call it like that, type of performance, like mental performance, emotional performance, or the way we perform emotionally, and then also physically, is affected by the quality of our sleep. And what's even more interesting, and this is why I'm so happy that you do what you do, and you bring up the awareness, the level of awareness, and you place these questions. We sleep 2 hours less than we did a century ago. 2 hours less. That's a lot of time from my perspective. So sleep is a force multiplier, I like to say, because it has the power to literally magnify the results we get from food, the results we get from movement, the results we get from breathing, even hydration. So all these health factors or lifestyle factors are going to be literally multiplied or magnified, if you want, once we get the right amount of sleep in. So what happens when we sleep enough? And then I will also list a few things happening when we lack sleep. So when we sleep enough, when we prioritize sleep, and by prioritizing sleep, I also mean not only how much in terms of how many hours, but also the quality. It's not enough to focus on the quantity of our sleep. It's also important to focus on the quality. And we get the right quality also by paying attention at what I like to call the timing of our sleep. In other words, when we go to sleep, if we catch what I like to call the prime time hours, and these hours are happening, or they are there between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. So our body takes the best. And also, especially for us women, this is important because, for example, human growth hormone is released and produced by our body specifically in this time interval. So if we miss this amazing hormone, it's also called the youth hormone. So for anyone interested to look glowing and have a better skin and glowing skin and so on, getting these specific hours of sleep is very important. So instead of binge watching Netflix till midnight or 2 a.m. and so on, going to bed, going to sleep around 10, it's a very important ritual or habit to actually take into account. Mm-hmm. So what happens when we go to sleep when we should, and then we also sleep enough? So quality plus quantity. We eat less. And you mentioned that was something that I took note on. You mentioned the fact that some things changed in regards to your husband's weight, right? So his weight changed. So we eat less. We generally eat less. And we also have a faster rate of weight loss. This was the number one reason why I became a certified sleep coach, because I figured out there is a very strong connection between what we eat, what's on the plate, and how much and how well we sleep when it comes to weight loss. The second thing is the fact that we are more productive. We manage to be properly focused, perform better, and also take better decisions. Most accidents in history happened ever in history. They happened because of sleep deprivation, and those people who were in charge with certain tasks, they were sleep deprived, and most of them happened around 4 a.m., which is interesting because this is when our body is producing more melatonin. This is the sleep hormone. Mm-hmm. So there are two injections, I like to call them, metaphorically speaking, of course. One is around 10 p.m. when we should be in bed. And I know this is painful for some of your listeners. And the second injection is at 4 a.m. So if we manage to catch these two injections with melatonin, we are going to feel more rested and more productive and able to focus and so on. Better immunity. This is so important, especially now with COVID and so many health issues happening in the world. So better immunity, better skin health. And this is, I already mentioned the prime time hours and the fact that we get the human growth hormone, and we cannot get this hormone. I should say this because so many people skip their sleep or go late to sleep, and then they say, I'm going to catch up during the weekend, or next day I'm going to take a nap. Well, you can do that. However, you will not get the human growth hormone, for example. So certain hormones are released by our body inside certain time intervals, and we simply don't get those hormones back. We can rest and recharge the physical battery. It doesn't mean we are also getting those specific hormones. So better skin health, emotional regeneration, and also I like to say better relationships. Absolutely. Because when you are rested, when you are focused, when you are calm, when you don't snap at people, you are not cranky, you are a pleasant person to be with. Your relationships or the quality of your relationships is definitely different. Our hormones are way more balanced. This is another very important topic, especially for women in their 40s and beyond. Lower levels of inflammation in our body. And we talked about inflammation. So if we want to stay away from inflammation, and inflammation again is creating the stage for certain lifestyle diseases. If we want to stay away from that, we need to prioritize sleep. Lower risk of infection, decreased pain. So for anyone who's experiencing pain of any kind, this is an important health factor to be prioritized. Stronger bones. And as we age, bones are important, especially for us women. And then also lower risk of Alzheimer and any other disease that has to do with cognitive decline. dementia, for example, Parkinson. There is a long list, but these three, Alzheimer, dementia, and Parkinson, are probably the most popular. When we don't sleep, and this is, if you want, the opposite of what I just described, we have bigger chances to gain weight. This is one of the things happening. And then we have greater chances to also develop cardiovascular diseases. There are interesting studies showing the fact that the link between a cardiovascular disease, any of the cardiovascular diseases, and lack of sleep is a very strong one. We are prone to depression. We are less creative, our emotional and social life is affected, and so on. And one of the things, and I like to say this, even though it might sound a little bit dramatic, but it's 100% true, one single night of sleep deprivation make anyone insulin resistant as a person with type 2 diabetes.
Wow.
And this translates in aging faster. You already mentioned that. Decreased libido, and also storing more body fat, more than, way more than we want. After 24 hours of sleep deprivation, there is 6% less glucose in our brain. And this is why, and it's a very simple test. Anyone can actually, once they well, of course, we don't want to get deprived, but things happen and life kicks in. So this is something that I also invite my clients to do. When they say, I have things to do and work to do, and I went to bed late or very late and so on, I invite them to watch a little bit themselves and their behavior around food next day. And in 100% of cases, they crave candies more, they crave chips, donuts, starchy, sugary things, fast food in general. And the reason is the fact that our body is literally trying to get back that glucose. It's almost like a survival mechanism. So it's biology, it's nothing else. It's not rocket science, it's just biology. We lose the glucose and the body wants to put the glucose back. And this is how we behave around sweets and fast food. So getting back our sleep. And another thing that we probably don't have enough awareness around is when we go to sleep, or not when we go to sleep, but respecting or making sure the timing of our sleep. In other words, going to sleep every night at the same hour and waking up pretty much at the same hour. This is something important. So not just going at 10 from time to time, right? Going to sleep at around 10 from time to time, a few times a week. The more we make this a predictable habit for our body, the better. If we one day we take this into account and go to sleep at 10, and then the other day we might go at 2, and so on, our body is literally confused. So what we manage to get is just out of balance hormones, and then we become cranky and we have so many cravings for the food we don't want to consume next day, and so on. So we go back to simple things. We go back to simple habits, forgotten habits, if you want.
Forgotten habits. Yes. I mean, sleep is where it's at. Everything you're saying, I'm just in my head like, yes, that is how my husband felt. Yes, that is how I have felt. I've suffered from adrenal fatigue in the past. And it was like, oh, I'm working out all the time. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. I'm pushing myself. But I also wasn't sleeping well. I wasn't getting like efficient rest and recovery, and I wasn't seeing the results I wanted. And I was, then I get mentally down on myself, like, well, what am I doing wrong? You know what I mean? And it all just adds up. It all just adds up. And I love that you brought up, creating healthy sleep habits around going around the bed the same time every night. I was just talking to a client the other day, and she's like, I'm trying to get to bed earlier because I'm waking up and I don't feel rested. And I asked her, I said, well, what are you doing before you go to sleep? She goes, watching TV. And she was like, I just can't she goes, I'm watching it to like fall asleep too. She goes, and it's making me stay awake longer. So I said, well, maybe set an alarm to watch TV for 15 minutes if that's something you do with like your partner before you go to bed, and then read or use an app to help that you don't have to look at that helps you go to sleep or something. What are some suggestions other than going to bed at the same time every night, or your biggest tip to help someone get to sleep and have a restful night's sleep?
Well, first of all, we need to time our meals as well, so not just our sleep. And it doesn't mean we get obsessed around the exact hour we should have dinner, for example. But having dinner a few hours before going to sleep is something I would put it in the forgotten habits category as well, because we are so used to snack all the time and to eat all the time and to have food all over the place sometimes, and especially for those used to binge watch on Netflix until late in the night, snacks are usually around. They are the go-to companion for them, and it's simply not healthy, even if the snacks or the food is healthy. So allowing our body to prepare for sleep, properly prepare and properly rest is one of the important things there. The second habit we can take into account, or routine we can take into account, is taking a walk. So if we don't manage, and this is something that it's understandable, especially if we need to you mentioned school and the fact that our kids are back to school very soon. So we are busy parents, busy people, and sometimes mornings can get crazy. So if we don't manage to do that, even though, again, being exposed to natural light, it's so beneficial for our sleep, we can do this in the evening before going to sleep. And I specifically say taking a walk and not doing a workout, a heavy workout, because it's way more beneficial than doing a workout right before going to sleep because of adrenaline. So there is a broader conversation about why not. And again, we can work out early in the night, ideally not very late. So timing our meals, taking a walk outside, and then you already mentioned Netflix or TV. So being exposed to artificial light, it's something that we want to definitely avoid in order to have a better sleep quality. And this is one of the, I should say, the most difficult thing for my clients, at least, to ditch, because they are so almost addicted to screens. And they have this fear of missing out from not going to social media and not seeing what the Joneses are doing. So it's difficult. It's literally difficult. And sometimes they need to place the phone outside their bedroom in order to actually resist the temptation to go into, I don't know, certain feeds on social media. Some of them also, they might have a screen in their bedroom, which is something I don't definitely recommend. And especially when you have a partner who has different habits than yours, it's even more difficult, right, to actually align your routine with his routine. So this would be another one, staying away from screens. And the reason for that is the fact that melatonin is not properly produced by our body. So when that blue light kicks in, or we take in the blue, we are exposed to be more correct, we are exposed to blue light, to the artificial light. Our bodies simply almost like stopping, not entirely, but a significant amount of melatonin is not produced anymore by our body. So that 10 p.m. injection is not there necessarily for us. So staying away from screens, taking a walk, timing our meals. I would also, and you mentioned apps that can put you to bed without needing to look at them, just with some earplugs. There are amazing apps and solutions. Sometimes can try meditation or simply some calming or breathing exercises before going to bed. That should be good enough, especially for those women or listeners who can fall asleep, or they're so stressed and their mind is so busy that in some cases they even wake up during the night because of those thoughts running around and being concerned and worried about certain things. So the other thing, and probably the last one, has to do with the way we decorate our environment, or I like to call it sanctuary, the sleep sanctuary. Temperature is important, and then humidity. In some cases, it's the fix or the solution, or one of the few solutions is just room temperature or humidity in the room. And then, of course, having the right wearing the right type of pajamas, if it's cotton or it's silk, or I mean, they might sound like they are not important, but they are, specifically for someone who's sensitive, for example, to polyester or to plastic in general. This could be a huge sleep barrier for them. So I just listed a few, and of course we can go further with plants and specific even specific supplements, but this is very different for everyone. So it's not a one size fits all solution.
Yeah, well, and it's trial and error. I know my husband has a very specific sleep ritual and sleep habits now, and it helps him sleep very restfully every night. He has to have earplugs. He has to have his pillows a certain way. He wears just these certain, well, he just wears his underwear to bed, but he has to have the room cool. He has to have the ceiling fan going. I've always been a good sleeper for the most part. I'm like, good night, and I go right to sleep. But for him, it's been really interesting just to watch his sleep journey and to support him through that. And I hope the ladies listening today really took down some generous notes, and thank you for your time and giving us this today, because I really feel like it's going to help a lot of women and think about, okay, not only do I want to be a more patient mom and colleague and business owner, but also I want to be better for me too, and show up as my best self, because I want to feel good and realize that, hey, there's no badge of honor being like, I only got 4 hours of sleep last night, but look what all I'm doing today, because that really compounds over time and speeds up that clock, which we don't want to do, ladies. We do not want to do that. So get to bed between that 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. for those melatonin injections. I love that so, so much. So Larisa, thank you so much for this conversation. Where can everyone connect with you and find out more about you?
There is a place from where your listeners can download a free guide, and this is 10yearsback.com. And this is a great guide with my favorite 10 age reversal hacks. So 10yearsback.com, and then keepglowing.com. This is the place where we promote and announce our upcoming free workshops. And the third one is definitely the place where they can book a free discovery call with me and see how we work and what type of genetic reports we run. And we also have our own app with a proprietary system created a few years ago. And this is connectwithlarisa.com. So this would be the three places for sure.
I love it so much. I'll make sure to include that in the show notes for everyone.
Thank you.
Well, I so appreciate your time. Thank you so much again, Larisa.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Larisa, thank you so much for this conversation. Ever since we talked back a while ago, I've been really conscious about my own sleep habits, and it's such a vital part of our health that I think we have just forgotten about. So thank you for that reminder today, and especially speaking from someone that's 41, anything we can do that's simple and free to turn back the to turn back the clock on aging, like sleep, I'm going to do it. And I hope you will too, friend. So let's talk about my 3 biggest takeaways from this episode with Larisa Petrini. So number 1, you can either slow down or accelerate the clock. So which one do you want? You want to slow it down, right? I loved learning more about epigenetics. You can control how your genes function. It's the intersection really of your genetics and everyday lifestyle, like Larisa mentioned. A lot of times, maybe we just get caught up in our own genes and then thinking whatever's hereditary, and we don't take care of ourselves because we think there's no point. Well, friend, there is a point. You can combine that and lead a healthy lifestyle to hopefully take control of those genetics. She mentioned a few easy ways to do that. Pay attention to more whole foods that will lead to less inflammation, which is where a lot of chronic disease comes from. Managing your time versus your energy. Oh, I love this so much. I feel like we could do a whole episode on this. We're managing our time every day, right? We are sharing our Google calendars, we're writing it down in our planner, blah, 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 blah. We're managing our time, but how are you managing your energy? Who are you giving energy to? Do they deserve your energy? How are you recharging your energy on the other side? And then lastly, movement. Just something as simple as getting outside and walking. I'm a big proponent of that. Those 3 simple areas, though, can really help slow down that aging. Okay, we don't want to accelerate it. We want to slow down that clock, and just focusing on those 3 simple areas are going to help you. Number 2, kind of like I referred to earlier, sleep is not a badge of honor to say you're like, oh my gosh, look at how much I can do on not a lot of sleep. It's actually science, okay? I really want you to take this as kind of like black and white data. If you're not getting quality sleep, then you're not going to get the results you want, period. Okay, and quality sleep, not just quantity. And thinking about the timing, like she mentioned, having that HGC, that youth hormone, going between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m., and that will really lead to faster rate of weight loss. You'll be more productive. You have better immunity. You can rest and recharge your battery. You can have emotional regulation, balanced hormones. Sleep is where it's at, y'all. It's actually science-based, and I think a lot of times we just think it's like, oh, I'm so exhausted. You'll perform better physically, mentally, emotionally, everything if you are getting quality sleep. And then lastly, sleep, I feel like, is one of the forgotten habits. It's a basic fundamental need. In all of my programming, we just focus on your fundamental needs, okay? We don't dig in too deep. We're focused on healthy habits around your fundamental needs to not overwhelm you. And a habit hack that Larisa mentioned that I love, and I wanted to make sure you took note of this, is to track what foods you crave when you're exhausted, when maybe you've gone a couple of days with not sleeping well. What kind of foods are you craving? It's probably those sugary processed foods to help replenish that glucose that you're not getting regenerated when you're sleeping. A couple other habit hacks is to go to sleep at the same time and time your meals, workouts, screen time, that artificial light earlier. Don't be doing that right before bed, because then you have that increased adrenaline. You're on alert watching your phone. If you're able to turn it off and have connection more so than anything, that will definitely help in the long term. So friends, don't forget about sleep. Don't count it out as a pillar of health for you. It is so important. It is so important in your sleep habits. Just speaking from living with someone who had poor quality sleep for 2 years, it's everything. Your sleep habits are everything. My husband, I feel like we could do a whole episode just on sleep. We have interviewed Dustin before, my husband, on his health journey as well. But sleep is where it's at. And if you're not getting enough sleep, use these tips that Larisa mentioned today. Make sure to give her a follow on Instagram. Check out her website. Everything is linked in the show notes for you to connect with her and learn more about how to turn back the clock. I keep thinking of if I could turn back time. But we want to turn back that clock on aging, and sleep is the number one secret, the number one habit to help you do that. If you love today's show, I'd love for you to leave me a review. Let me know what you loved about it. Make sure to go to the show notes to follow Larisa, and I will catch up with you later on Thursday for Habit Hack Thursday. See you then, friend. Hey girl, real quick before you go, if you want some free motivation texted to you every week from me to help you habit hack your health, send me your favorite emoji to 773-904-2157 and sign up for my weekly pump up text. I can't wait to catch up with you there. Hey, and if you love the podcast, the number one way you can thank me is to leave a rating and review in iTunes. That way more mamas can also find the show. Then you can even email me a screenshot of your review and I'll send you either a Starbucks gift card or give you a free habit hacking call with me live on the podcast. Love and appreciate you, friend. I'll see you next time.